Okay, I kept blabbing when the 15 minutes was up, so I went back and looked, and it just looked like the last thing I was talking about was the personality types, the 4 personality types, and how you can vary how you handle them based on that, and then the fact that Salesforce, the CRM platform, doesn't really seem to have a place to capture that. But what can happen with Salesforce when you, as a company, you buy Salesforce and it ain't cheap. You can customize for your organization. So if you want to add fields of information and capture personality types, things like that, that is doable. So, you can take the basic template of Salesforce again and add or subtract or change or modify to make it meet your needs. But I'm just going to underline the fact that, what's going on with B2B is you're selling a company and people, and so you're capturing both kinds of data. This is the segmentation by SIC code, and SIC stands for Standard Industrial Classification. And the numbers are what's important. Let me just give you an example of how making sure you list your clients, for instance, by SIC code is important. This is a real-life example from this little company I used to work with, unfortunately. The company was selling basically information to media companies. It was a lead generation and information service, an online service. And this little company published a newsletter every week where the company had reporters who were interviewing clients and advertisers about upcoming ad campaigns that they were going to be buying or were getting RFPs for from different media companies. And they got some basic standard information about, how many markets are you buying, or is it all national? What types of media are in the plan? Who is your target? Basically, what my little company was doing was trying to get the RFP for the media buy from the advertiser. And then we would publish that information, and media companies, their sales groups, would subscribe and get information about buys and things going on that they might not have known about that they could get in on. It was a subscription model. They had to buy an annual subscription based on the size of their sales organization, blah, blah, blah. Now, this little company was looking to possibly merge or be acquired by another media information company. And this other media information company was tracking in different media, starting with radio. So we'll just talk about radio. They were tracking every commercial, every radio ad that was on air in the top 100 markets in the U.S. Okay. And they're tracking what every advertiser is spending in every market, top 100 markets in the U.S. And they're doing this by online devices that are pulling out codes and from different radio stations, and they are listening to ads, and their online sort of digital listening devices are able to see if it's a different kind of an ad and what client it is. So they had software that automated, of course, this whole process. And so the way this worked is that a media sales organization, so say it's KXOK in St. Louis, could yes, they can listen to what's on air in the market, but they could also pay this particular little company to digitally track everything all the other radio stations in St. Louis would be running. And so they could get copies of the ads digitally, and they could get an estimate how they could get how many spots had been run and what day part by what client, and they could get an estimate of the cost. Wouldn't be accurate, but they could. So basically, it's like for a media company, it's tracking what's running on the competition. Okay, now the little company tracking what's running on the competition had different codes for the advertisers and the clients. They didn't use SIC codes. They used another kind of code or something that they'd invented way back when. Okay, so my company used SIC codes for all the advertisers that they were reporting on and writing about. They would say it was this industry or that industry. And so here's where the problem came. If we wanted to merge and make all of our information available and sell both together as one subscription, we had to be able to merge the competitive advertising data and our reporting data. And to be able to merge it, we had to have common classifications of industrial codes, and we didn't. Now, if we had common codes, it would have been automated, the merger of the two databases. But because we didn't, some poor devil had to go through and try to say, well, this equals this, and restaurants under fast food restaurants is XYZ for this company, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 for this company, but we're just going to say that XYZ equals 1, 2, 4. Okay, you see what I'm talking about? Okay, so this segmentation is important for keeping track of things, and more than that. Now this gets into kind of really the heart of what we're talking about here in terms of this is segmentation by value, by the value of the client. And just as with consumer marketing, we can look at the purchase history, the contracts, etc., of different clients in B2B. We can find our MVCs. Who spends the most with us? Who do we make the most profit with? Who are we growing the fastest with would be another thing to look at. Who has a big future as a category or a segment? If my lead clients are people who make BlackBerries or software for BlackBerries. Remember the BlackBerry, everybody, before they were mobile phones from Apple? I'm in trouble because they're gone. Okay. So what industries are growing? What have a big future? So you have your own criteria for defining who are most valuable customers, but then you go into the database, and what you're mostly going to find is these customers are probably going to be organized by industry. Certain industries just have a resonance with what you're offering as a company, and they're going to be your best customers. So, okay, so basically a very simple way to divide your customer databases. Maybe you put it in 3 tiers. Okay, you have your platinum customers where you're making a lot of money and you really want to keep that relationship. And these are the 20% of your customers that are 80% of your business. These are your MVCs. What do you do with these people? What are your actions in terms of B2B marketing? Well, you want to make sure you know the decision makers. Make sure you have relationships with senior management. Don't have what happened to you, what happened to the competitor of Lester Wunderman, that guy Max, where Lester Wunderman, in the little story I told, had the relationships. Max had some, but not as strong as Lester. They all viewed Lester as the one who was producing for them, not Max. Max they may have liked, but he wasn't, life or death on their business. So cultivate decision makers. Do not take the business for granted. Monitor your competitors. Your sales force is involved. You have got salespeople who are, on these accounts and making sure they're served correctly. And by the way, you're probably hiring salespeople from the same who have worked in the same category of business as these MVCs, these platinum clients. You almost definitely are doing that, so that your company has a real, we really know your business. You're also spending on entertainment. So what you do with them is obviously you're not prospecting here, but you're defending the business. You're trying to grow the business. Then you've got people in the middle, customers in the middle. Yes, you're making a profit, but it says more and more transactional. Now, here you may have a very good upside. Now, you may have a good upside on the. So, by the way, some of these clients may be in the same category as your platinum clients, business category, but maybe they're splitting their business among several companies. That happens many times, particularly in the agency business, where I'll have one ad agency for one thing and another for PR and another for this, another for that. But here, this is the group you need to look at for your growth. So the platinum is you're maintaining. You don't want to have a hole in the bucket and lose them for the most part. Your growth is in this middle area. So here's where, it says advisory panel. I mean, the basic idea here would be if it's a category of business, maybe you'd pull together some clients as an informal advisory panel to help you adjust your product and your services to serve their industry better. Again, you probably want to hire a salesperson, a saleswoman, or whatever who has experience working in the category on the client side. Here, you're going to maybe send out a newsletter to these customers about what you're doing in their category or what's new with you and how you've improved your service. Of course, personalized emails to the decision makers and influencers, and you're going to spend on entertainment. So your growth is here, and you need to focus on it. And then the lead customers, these are the ones that, as much as possible, you want to automate all your contacts with them. They might not be profitable. They might have negotiated so hard you can't make any money, honestly. And maybe they drive your people nuts with a bunch of requests, and then they don't order, and then there are clients like that. They're just like, you are a pain in the butt client, and I'm not making any money on you. Maybe it's a big brand name, and it helps the prestige of your agency, so you keep them, but maybe not. So this is where you would bring in more automation, a la Amazon, and you would, let them order from your website. Don't have people talking to them. Don't spend a lot of personal time, people time on this. You're going to try to run this business efficiently. Okay, so I think summing up, I mean, you use traditional database marketing to help you manage the CRM for higher value clients. And we're going to get into that more when I get into Salesforce, how you can set up reminders and different processes for different purchasing processes. And then you're going to automate and use the database to automate. Send out automatic emails and accept orders, over the web. You're going to automate and use the database for the less valuable customers. Okay, so now I think we're going to stop, and I'm going to pick up on the other side, and we're going to start getting into our discussion of customer entertainment a little bit. I've got a story or two about that, and then we'll get into a deeper discussion of CRM platforms, starting with ACT, the original, and then going on to really getting into Salesforce a little bit.